So I was on eBay the other day looking for some micro SD cards. Now I needed quite a few of these for some sort of little project, and I came across quite a few of these eBay listings. So first of all, they were selling name brand SD cards for quite a low price. You can see here 32 gigabytes for £3.50, and this store in particular had pretty much no ratings. So this didn't fill me with a ton of confidence, but I decided to buy them anyway just to see what would happen. Another thing is that you can see here that you can actually buy fake SD cards from China and get your logo put on here and sell them as you would like. But anyway, as you can see, I've got the SD cards here right now. So let's do some tests and find out, are these actually that bad? So what are the problems of buying some sort of fake SD card? Well, the first thing is that if it's fake, you're not going to get any sort of warranty support if anything was to go wrong. The second thing is that they might not actually have the capacity that they claim. So these might be 32 gigabyte cards, but they might only have 2 or 4 gigabytes of space. But the most important thing is that the SD card might be really slow, which makes it really unusable, or will give you some sort of buffering problems or stuff like that. But the one thing is that they might not actually be a scam. You should be really careful that you actually buy SD cards which are rated as fast as you need to. So if you see over here, if you go to the SD Association, they have different ratings for different cards. So I would say you do not want anything slower than this. You want to make sure your SD cards have at least these markings, but ideally you're going to be looking for something a bit faster. My CFast card, which is what I've currently got in the camera to record off, very old, probably like at least 10 years old, and it is rated for 60 megabytes per second. But if you're looking for some sort of basic application like recording basic 1080p video, 10 megabytes per second probably will be enough. But let's actually see if we even get that 10 megabytes per second. Or as we see over here, they're actually claiming the full 60 and 100 megabytes per second. So let's see how that goes in our testing. So I've got my micro SD cards here. Now I've got this SanDisk micro SD card. I bought this quite a long time ago. It's not got the fastest speed rating, as you see. It's only got that basic 10 megabytes per second rating, and the capacity is true of I have filled this card completely up and it hasn't failed, so that is good. The main point of comparison we have is this integral card. I bought this from a reputable retailer and it was actually really cheap. They had it on some sort of clearance sale. It is massive. It's 256 gigabytes. You can see here that it has the 3 and the V30, which means that this is rated for at least 30 megabytes per second. So let's do a comparison between all these cards. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up these SD cards here and just check if there's any sort of obvious giveaways. Now the first thing I noticed on the back is if you look down here, this actually says CN. So these are actually Chinese. So these could just be legit SD cards, but they've just been exported from China where they're not supposed to be, and that's how we're getting these even cheaper. So I wouldn't class on this warranty actually meaning anything. So let's open these up and take a look inside. Okay, so I've unboxed the SD cards and having a look in here, you've got the adapter. There's no obvious errors or anything like that. Now looking at the micro SD card itself, again it does look pretty good. It doesn't seem to be anything obvious giving away that this is fake. I actually see that it actually has got the little 3 rating, so this should give us at least 30 megabytes per second. If you look on the back of this card here, it says rated for 80 megabytes and 20 megabytes, so the eBay listing is lying. But to be honest, if we get 80 megabytes or 20 megabytes here, I would still be pretty happy considering these cards only cost £3.50. Here we are on my computer. So the first thing I'm going to do is the speed test. So let's first try out the SanDisk Ultra card. Okay, so I've let the SanDisk card run for a little while. You can see here that even though it's a so-called Ultra card, it's not really that fast. So 15 megabytes per second and 22 megabytes per second. Perfectly fine for 1080p video. You can probably get away with it for some basic 4K video as well. So next, let's try my integral card. So I'll let the integral card run for a little while, and you can see that the speeds are staying pretty much consistent, 85 megabytes per second ish on the write and 90-ish megabytes per second on the read. So you can see that this integral card is actually going faster than what it is rated for. Now I don't have a more in-depth tester which could test every nitty little detail such as sequentials and all these kind of things, but just in a basic speed test you can see that this card is quite fast and it'll be completely fine for anything like 4K video or anything that will actually use a micro SD card. So now for the moment you've all been waiting for it, let's try out the Samsung card. So let's see how good this card will be. Place your bets now. Okay, so this has been running for a little while, and you can see here that the results are pretty disappointing. It's hitting about 10 megabytes on the write and about 20 on the read. That's pretty close to our SanDisk card, and that SanDisk card had the little 10 rating. As we saw on this Samsung card, this should have been rated for at least the 30 megabytes per second, and if you look at the back of the card, remember it said 18, 20 megabytes per second. We're hitting nowhere near that. So it's time for the capacity test. So I've got this folder over here that's 29 gigabytes large, so you can see here that there's 31 gigabytes available. So this entire folder should be able to fit in this card. Now if you're in Windows, I will link a utility in the description below which you can use to test the capacity of your drive without having to, you know, have data available to test. So we're going to copy this folder over and come back when it's completed and see if it works. Now I'm not that impressed straight at the bat. It said this is going to take 2 whole hours. Actually it's gone up to 3 now, so I'll see you when this is done. The results are pretty disappointing. So as you can see here that the capacity is 32 gigabytes and there's only 2 gigabytes free. Because the results are pretty weird, because if you actually look at the size of this folder, it's only 8 gigabytes. This folder, which should be half a gigabyte, is only 0 kilobytes. And just before I was recording this video, it was showing me lots of files here, but when I clicked on them, none of them would load. Similar structure. I can see that this is 8 gigs, this is 12, this is 13 gigs, and this card is completely lying about its capacity and cannot be trusted for your personal information. Because what will happen is you'll put this card in without realizing it's fake, and you think you copy in some important data and it just won't be there anymore. So I actually wasn't expecting these cards to be fake. I was just expecting them to be kind of slow, and I was going to conclude that they're very cheap and you get the capacity and they're just a bit slow, so for something very basic they're a pretty good deal. And I've bought other cheap cards of eBay before and that's been the case, as like those SanDisk cards. They're not super duper fast, but they work. But in this case, they have turned out to be fake. I've actually never seen this happen before. So all I've got to say is no matter what SD card you buy and no matter who you buy it from, you should definitely at least speed test it to make sure it's fast enough for your needs, and you should also capacity test it to make sure that your data is even on it in the first place. Anyway, thanks for watching.